If you have been watching Time for Hope for a while, there's a possibility you have previously viewed the following edition of our show. If you are a new viewer, you probably haven't seen it. From time to time, we air some of our past shows related to topics that have encouraged and inspired our viewers. For this reason, we are airing this show again today. Now here's your pastor and host, Dr. Freda Crews.
Thank you for joining me as we present another edition of Time for Hope, a faith-based mental health show. I'm Dr. Freda Crews, your host, and today will be an unusual edition as I am joined by Janie Price, widow of country music Hall of Famer Ray Price, and I add one of my favorite country music singers who went to be with his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on December 16th, 2013. But as he was facing death and undergoing treatments for pancreatic cancer, he determined to leave a final album titled Beauty Is, dedicated to his wife Janie, expressing his love to her in song. This album has lots to offer husbands who neglect to keep their wives assured of their love. To hear Ray and Janie's story and how God fit in, stay with us. And Janie, I can't tell you how excited we have been about your agreeing to come and appear on Time for Hope with me and tell your story as a wife of one of the greatest country music stars that we have. So thank you so much.
Well, let me thank you, Dr. Crews, for having me. I have to confess I am one of your biggest fans.
And when we found that out, that made us very excited also. This is something new for us. During Valentine week, I played one of Ray's songs off the album that we're going to be talking a lot about for Valentine. It was a love song. It appeared to me that he wrote it just for you, and having to do with and when I saw the word affair, I thought, well, should I use that on my show? But then the way it was worded, and I'll let you give me the name of it.
An Affair to Remember.
An Affair to Remember, and heard it, I thought, this is what I've been trying to tell people about their marriages and what needs to be in a marriage and what love really what the two people in love, what it can be like, and so forth. So we played it that week. It was very appropriate, I thought, to fit in. But most of what he had in his last album, which he was determined, I've read all of this, to do one last one after he knew that he didn't have long to live and the pancreatic cancer was going to take him home to be with the Lord. And so why don't we start out talking about you two when he received that diagnosis?
Well, there comes that moment in all of our life. You know, we know that we all owe a debt of death. And the tragic part is that each one of us will eventually face that. That day came with us, and I must tell you, it was the most devastating news that we had ever heard. And in so receiving that news, how does one deal with that? It was he and I coming together and bonding beyond belief and holding on to each other. That was the only way we were able to get through that.
So, and that is so what God has had in mind and has in mind for couples, for a man and a woman to share a marriage and love and partnership, and the big word is companionship in the long run, isn't it?
In the end,
yes.
Companionship ends up being the most important thing in a wife's life.
Now, he, when you all met, and you were married for 43 years.
6 months and 8 days.
Yes. When you first met, Where did you meet, by the way? You're from Texas,
Yes,
aren't you?
I am. Ray and I met in Dallas.
Uh-huh. And you still have a home, is that in Texas?
Yes, we do. Ray purchased a ranch down in Mount Pleasant, and that wonderful ranch became Ray Price's sanctuary, away from the public and away from all the hustle bustle of being a big, giant superstar. And when he would walk on that farm, he would pull his buses in, go park them under the bus barn, and when he stepped off that bus, he was within his own private sanctuary.
I've wondered why so many country music stars sing about Texas and live in Texas and so on and so forth. I've lived in Texas. There's a lot of space out there.
Yes, there is.
Yes, it's a wonderful state.
Well, Ray is from Texas. He was born in Perryville, Texas.
In a little town.
Right.
Yes.
And amazingly, the farm that he chose was 30 miles from his home place.
Oh, yes, of course. There's always something inside of us. I know I'm a native Floridian, and there's something inside of us that we always identify with where we come from, no matter where we go.
I agree.
Yes, we don't forget where. Well, some people, I think, do forget where they've come from,
Yes.
and that's not good for them.
No, it's not.
I like to hang on to where I came from, and it appears that Ray did too.
He did that very thing.
Yeah. So you met in Texas, right?
Yes.
And he told you soon how difficult it would be. You must have already been talking marriage when this conversation took
Yes.
place. How difficult it would be to be a wife. Or his wife, of a well-known, outstanding, one of the most outstanding country music stars.
Well, since I've lost my husband, I have grown to realize what a wise man he was beyond his years. Yes, he prepared me for all of that. And it's not easy being the wife of a public figure or of being a famous person's wife. But he led me through that. He talked me through it. He explained to me how women would approach him at these concerts. And then he said something very, very special to me. He said, there's one thing that I want you to always remember. He said, I married you. You are the woman that I chose. He said, don't you ever forget that. And he said, don't you ever be jealous of any woman who ever approaches me, because they're my fans, and I have to react to my fans, and I have to respond to them. But he said, you have nothing to worry about, sweetheart. And I never did. Never did.
You told me on the phone that with all, and I know as a pastor's wife you have some of the same issues in a church and with the women. Women like strong men. They are attracted to strong men wherever they're coming from and so forth. But I was amazed that you told me on the phone that with all the temptations that he had to face, that he never gave in. And so did he talk it out with you? How did he handle that? Did he talk it out with you, or just keep assuring you, or how was that handled?
Well, actually, he did. After he and I had that conversation, first
you agreed to marry him.
There you go. There you go.
You had that conversation, right?
I did, but after. Well, I'm a country girl too, and of course everyone knows Ray had had previous marriages, and previous marriage that had ended in a very, very sad situation because of the career change that he had had that ended, and that was the reason he'd moved from Nashville. And so Ray actually was about almost 20 years my senior, and so I was advised by my stepmother, by my mother-in-law. I mean, they took me aside and they really gave me a talking to prior to the marriage. And they said, we don't think you should marry this man. He's far much too older than you. My mother never said that. She knew how much I was in love with him. But they actually cautioned me and said that they didn't think that I would be able to cope with a man much older than I am. But of course, when you're in love, 10 white horses are not going to hold you back from going forward. No. And so after I made my commitment to him, he helped me through every question that I ever had. He had the greatest wisdom, and he was able to honestly, you know what it actually ended up being like? It was like a fatherly figure in a husband body. And he could just put his arms around me, and I've had that same feeling of comfort and warmth and love. Ray Price was a man of very, very few words. Everyone in this world knows his singing. No one is going to be able to tell you about his talking.
He put it out.
He didn't talk. When he walked on that stage, he walked out there and delivered his music. And I asked him once, I said, why do you not talk to your audience? He said, I don't think they would really be interested in me personally or what I'm doing. He said, I think they're just interested in my music. And so he never opened up and talked to them. Well, he was the same way at home. But Ray Price didn't have to say anything. His feelings were, he was able to communicate his feelings so well with you, he didn't have to talk to you. You felt it. And so the reassurance that I had from him never wavered. Okay, how do you say a woman feels insecure or something happens with someone around them and you get this little feeling of jealousy, or you think perhaps, oh, he may look at her and like her? Honest as God is my witness, it never happened to me. Now, and believe me, there were some beautiful women came around my husband, and believe me, they put their hands on him.
And
many times, and Ray was so embarrassed, but it was the way he handled it. I never felt one moment that my husband ever was tempted by another woman. Never.
I don't know how many women could say that, especially married to a famous man. That's what.
Well, a woman knows.
Yes, and you know, I want husbands listening to this. They have a responsibility to make sure that their wives have this confidence in a marriage, and a woman needs it. There are certain needs of a woman that men need to understand, and it sounds like Ray just intuitively knew. Maybe the other marriage is failing. Maybe he learned that
he did.
From the other marriages, or maybe that's what caused them to fail. Or you just said one. I'm sorry about saying marriages.
No,
but,
you are correct.
I am.
There were 3 previous marriages, and I am his 4th wife.
And you stayed, and y'all were married 43
and a half years.
What a wonderful story. And I'll bet I know what was behind that, and we're going to talk about it when we come back after break,
Thank
okay?
you.
And we will be right back.
Our love affair is a wondrous thing that we'll rejoice in remembering.
Our love was born with our first embrace, and a page was torn out of time and space.
Our love affair, may it always be
A flame to burn through eternity.
so. Take my hand with a fervent prayer that we may live.
And we may share
A love affair to remember.
to remember.
Always appreciate your joining us on Time for Hope. My guest for today is Janie Price, wife of Ray Price, one of the greats in country music, and of course was a Hall of Famer. And she's sharing her story of being married to Ray, and also I've learned she was his business manager, and doing all the details involved in him being a great country music star. And we're also going to be sharing about his last CD that he was determined to finish even as he was dying of pancreatic cancer. And he dedicated it to Janie, and of course we shared one of his songs off this CD previously. Just a few weeks ago, we played it during the week of Valentine. It spoke so much, and it speaks so much of love and affair that lasts forever, or
Yes.
something like that, and marriage and so forth. So the name of the CD is Beauty Is, and you're going to want a copy when these shows are over. And I say these shows because I've decided that we're going to be sharing with you about Janie and what she has experienced post the death of Ray, and also while they were married for 43 years, and we're going to be offering this CD. So we're introducing a whole new idea on Time for Hope. This is something we've never done, and for you younger people that might not be hung up, as it were, on country music like some of us older ones. I want to introduce you to some of the songs that that Ray has been, actually his first one came out in 1952, and that was the great 50s, the mystical 50s, and he's proved to be one of my favorites at that time, and actually until the end. So I'm going to be turning back to Janie, and we're going to be talking more about Ray, and about their marriage, and about what she has gone through even after his going home to be with the Lord. And that's what I had in mind when we went out on break, and I said, I know what's behind what you were sharing with me, and him staying straight, as it were. I hope that doesn't carry anything else other than what I mean, when he was tempted, and a man in his position would have been tempted by many women. And you told me on the phone, as I've already said, that he never gave in, that he had to remain on his guard to do that. And I said, I bet I know what was behind all of this, because I think of his song, I Believe, and I think of you mentioning his Jesus, and you told me that on the phone too, that he loved his Jesus.
Yes.
So that's the piece that I believe fits in, that I was referring to the marriage and to his faithfulness to you, and you're just being able to relax and be assured of that love. Yet he did make one more final attempt to assure you forever of his love, didn't he,
God.
on this last CD. And there aren't a lot of husbands that understand a wife's need for that assurance. I'm hoping we can touch those husbands that like Janie Price also, and so that they can understand, because you kept asking him. You would ask him, wouldn't you?
Of course.
Knowing that he loved you.
Yes.
But you wanted to hear him say it, right?
Well, of course. I'm a woman.
I like that. And so we're opening up some things to men that could help their marriages.
Oh,
And,
that's wonderful.
And also helping the women that have to
Who need
be
help.
reminded that they are loved and appreciated. And it does go a long ways in a marriage. And God would have them assuring their wives they love them and that they will remain faithful to them. So with that said, let's move on. I want to talk and give you the opportunity to share the immediate impact of Ray's death in your life, because you're still going through that, and it's going to take a while. I
Yes.
can assure you of that. I've done a lot of teaching and counseling people in grief, and I myself have lost my husband of many years, and he's been gone 5 years now. But there is that, and I believe you used that word in some things, the loneliness, the going home and them not there. You brought that out in your grief. And I was just talking to a young man yesterday, and I believe he had gone through a divorce, which you would experience some of the same
Yes.
things. And he was telling me how going home and no one there, and that loneliness that is there as a result of no one there. But he was happy to tell me he had a new girlfriend in his life, so it didn't. But there is grief carries a lot with it. It carries tears. It carries depression. It carries pain, just hardcore heart pain.
Yes.
Emotional
Oh, yes.
pain and heart pain.
Yes.
And you don't mind, and you haven't minded admitting that.
No.
Being married to this famous man, and yet you are grieving like anyone else could if they will allow themselves to.
When you were mentioning the immediate loss, I was just recalling to my mind that moment when I walked into our home after his funeral and he was gone. That is the most devastating feeling I'd ever felt in my life. He filled our home, his presence. He was gone. There was an emptiness there that literally hit me in the gut. The following morning was the killer, rolling over and waking up and realizing he's gone, and reaching over and he's gone. Those are the two moments I recall so vividly.
And you know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to pick up next week where we're leaving off. We're going to do another whole week.
Oh my goodness,
So that
how
we
exciting.
can get into some more about your story and, of course, Ray's life and so forth. So it's time for, we're going to play one of his songs, by the way, and I believe is what we're going to be
That's
playing.
My favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
We're going to be playing that in this show. So it was. I listened to it yesterday, and
Incredible.
It was incredible. It's one on this CD also.
Yes.
So I encourage you as a viewer to make sure that you already make plans to order this CD, even without the next week's show, I would encourage you to get a copy of this CD that Ray made even while he was taking cancer treatments. He was making this CD, and he was intended to dedicate it to Janie. And then I have something to share from a couple of viewers before we leave you. And my first one is, Dear Dr. Freda, my husband recently passed away. I need prayer for strength, courage, faith, and understanding. And she's got every bit of it nailed, what one needs when their husband has just passed away. And we've taken this prayer to the Lord already. We take each and every prayer request that comes into Time for Hope straight to our Heavenly Father, because we know with Him there is hope, and there is love, there is compassion, there is healing as we look to Him. So if you haven't shared your prayer request with us, I encourage you to do so. And then I have a note of encouragement to share with you. Dear Dr. Freda, I enjoyed your recent program about grief. Thank you so much for having Time for Hope on the air, and thank you so much for sending that note along. So if you haven't considered helping us with this program financially, I encourage you to do so. We've gone across the world with it. It's being aired across the world now, and it takes finances to carry it across the world, and you would be helping us do that if you chose to help us financially. We would greatly appreciate it. Then the next thing I do is encourage you to make sure you join us again next week as we continue with Janie Price.
Thank you for watching Time for Hope, a ministry of Hope for Living Media Church and Bible Study Time Incorporated. We offer a free fact sheet with more information on today's topic. Call or write us to get your copy today. The resource we are offering this week is available for a donation of at least $5 to the Time for Hope ministry. Any additional donation you wish to send will be greatly appreciated. Call us at 800-669-9133. Write us at Post Office Box 2169, Spartanburg, South Carolina 29304. Or visit our website at timeforhope.org. As we continue to give out messages of hope, a financial gift of any amount to support this ministry will be greatly appreciated. When you send us a gift, you are joining us in offering hope to many viewers seeking help and hope for their situations, and enabling us to inform and inspire viewers to expand our mission as they learn and in turn can minister more effectively to hurting people around them. Join us next week for more on today's topic. Look for Dr. Freda's Scriptural Devotions on our Time for Hope TV Ministry Facebook page. And to see this program again online, visit our website or search for the Time for Hope TV Ministry on YouTube, iTunes, Roku, or Facebook. Until next time, have a great week, and remember, it is time for hope.